Octopath Traveler 0 is a spin-off of the mobile game Champions of the Continent and deviates from the core series in a few notable ways. Instead of choosing one of 8 class-based protagonists, you create your own character, customize their appearance, personality, starting abilities, and, shortly after completing the prologue, their class. While classes can be changed later, this flexibility is exclusive to only the player character. The story begins in a humble village where nothing bad ever happens. Until, of course, something bad happens, and now you have to rebuild the entire town while collecting NPCs for the reconstruction effort. Character recruitment is entirely done through side stories separate from the main storyline. Not much else to say here other than, in spite of being a spin-off with features exclusive to this entry, Square fails to seize the opportunity that deviation from the main series allows. The 3 paths amount to 3 separate character stories driven primarily by their respective antagonists, with no meaningful climax tying them together. The Master of All arc just follows a standard JRPG narrative format without any unique qualities of its own. And despite you, the player, being integral to every plot line, the game cares very little for your input.
And here I thought you would understand.
It's time to come clean. I've never been a fan of the Octopath Traveler series storytelling. I enjoy the games mechanically, but the narratives always felt bloated, with dialogue that drags on long enough to drain any momentum. More often than not, I found myself enjoying the experience more by skipping scenes and filling in the gaps myself. Octopath Traveler 2 was an improvement, but it still carried many of the same structural issues as its predecessor. Going into Octopath Traveler 0, I fully expected those problems to resurface. What I didn't know was whether this spin-off could finally address the series' most persistent flaw, the lack of a proper climax tying its desperate storylines together. For the first time, the player character is central to every plotline. In theory, that alone should have been enough to unify the narrative. The question was simple. Could this entry succeed where every predecessor failed? The missed opportunity. First, allow me to say this game's dialogue reads like a corporate slot machine written in a way that seems designed to waste your time.
Hope is a poison that leads only to death.
Characters often over-explain their intended message, repeating themselves until that message becomes redundant. Obviously, the intent was to better characterize their motivations, but this ultimately ruins the intended moment through sheer tedium.
No. I will fight. This I swear. I will protect that which I love.
You sad for the people.
Oh my god, we're still talking. More often than not, the problem stems from the writer's inability to trust the player to understand what the story has already made clear. Another striking example is The Path of Fame. Its antagonist, August the Playwright, is genuinely compelling. A homicidal narcissist who uses fame and authority to commit or coerce others into depraved acts.
Simply marvelous!
The twist that your ally, Swartz, was August all along is actually well set up, with subtle inconsistencies in his backstory that attentive players can piece together before the reveal.
Marvelous! What a splendid performance!
Unfortunately, the game immediately undermines this moment with an exhaustive flashback, explaining everything in detail, rendering those clues meaningless and insulting the player's intelligence. The story had already earned the twist. The over-explanation only serves to ruin it. This isn't an isolated incident either. For whatever reason, the writers often assume the player has the memory of a goldfish, as every chapter begins with a minor recap followed by excessive reminders or flashbacks from moments that occurred one chapter prior. But the real missed opportunity is what the game could have done with its climax. something no previous entry managed to pull off. For the first time, Octopath Traveler 0 opens by establishing a collaboration between its three primary antagonists: Herminia, Titus, and August, each one representing one of three narrative paths. This setup practically begs for a final arc in which completing all three stories unlocks a climax shaped by player choice. Perhaps, with the antagonists betraying one another, the outcome determined by which path the player chose. Instead, the one moment where the game could have meaningfully validated player choice is rendered irrelevant. These compelling antagonists are dispatched after only 3 chapters each, with no unifying climax to tie their stories together. I'm amazed at how little I have to say about the game itself, because Octopath Traveler 0 has so few outstanding moments. Both the game and the story in particular are defined by pure mediocrity, with very little worth remembering. Shortly after I concluded the Master of All arc, I dropped the game 40 hours in. While the gameplay is serviceable, the story reads like corporate jargon. Characters speak at length while saying very little, much like the player choices themselves. A good game can carry a bad story, but a bad story can just as easily drag down a decent game. Octopath Traveler 0 had the tools to finally correct the series' long-standing narrative flaws, especially its lack of a unified climax, but instead repeats them. What should have been a bold spin-off ends up feeling like the same problem all over again. In the end, Octopath Traveler 0 is a tedious missed opportunity. Want more reviews? Click here or subscribe. Come, join my party.